Hey guys, this is Illusion Podfics, and we're going to be reading Chapter 4 of Spider-Man Reborn. When Peter finally started crawling, he sort of wished he did it with less supervision. His mom pulled him back before he could wander out of a room. His dad just placed him back from where he started. Dick just carried him away, and Jason would just time him. Jason was the only one who seemed to be on the same page, really. The timing was great to track his progress, if only he wasn't being cut off from it by everyone else. How was he going to be a vigilante again if he couldn't even crawl? Dick endlessly worried he'd somehow teleport to the stairs. His mom just wanted him to stay in a single room. His dad worried just as much as Dick, but he at least let Peter crawl. Alfred usually left him to crawl, but would always somehow clear the path or block it before Peter went too far from him. When Dick finally fell asleep and he was otherwise alone, Peter went on the move. Crawling wasn't hard, but it felt like he was crawling through sand. His joints moved almost detached from him. It was an extremely new experience despite Peter and Spider-Man crawling along the walls for years. He crawled around the couch, having to stop and catch his breath, with his limbs splayed out. When he was ready, Peter pushed himself on the knees again, pushing himself further towards the door. Dick had brought him into one of the sitting rooms, one that Peter was pretty sure was just down the hall from the front room and dining hall. Alfred should be doing laundry right now, so he couldn't interfere. He crawled past the threshold, stopping just outside the sitting room to stare at the hallway. Somehow, it looked so much bigger from the ground. Peter crawled forward. The front door was just ahead of him. If he turned right, he could get to the dining hall. Destination in mind, Peter moved harder. He was tired already, and he barely got close enough to his goal. "Master Peter, where is Master Dick?" Alfred's voice came from behind. Peter groaned when he was lifted like a misbehaving cat. Alfred placed him on his hip before heading back towards the room he just escaped from. "Let's bring you back to him. Wandering the halls alone can be dangerous, young master." "You're a lot like Friday, Alfred. At least Friday couldn't carry me around, though." Peter babbled, patting the man's mustache curiously. He hadn't had a chance to grow his facial hair before, so seeing it on Alfred and his dad made him curious. Would he have a mustache when he was older? Or would he just grow a beard? It'll hide his perpetual baby face he was sure he'll have in the years to come. He should check to see how much has changed genetically since he's been born. Alfred really was a lot like Friday, extremely helpful and terrifyingly omniscient. The man knew everything somehow, and was everywhere. Friday would also call him out or tattle on him to Mr. Stark, and Peter was sure he'd have to be careful when he started being Spider-Man again. "You found him!" Dick flew towards them from the fireplace, his hair a mess. Peter couldn't help but laugh at his brother's soot-covered face. The panic was real, but abated quickly when Peter laughed. Did he think Peter, less than a year old, managed to crawl up a fireplace? He could have, if he still had his spider DNA. Indeed, Master Peter was attempting his first escape from the manor, it seems. Alfred eyed Dick before stepping back. "I suggest you wash up before taking Master Peter outside." Peter watched his brother agree sheepishly before he ran off. Well, he can work on his stamina outside, too. "I was sure the fireplace was clean," Alfred muttered to himself, or to Peter, as Dick disappeared. The first time Peter stood was another overly excited day. His family was weirdly proud of everything he did. They had a guest in the form of Mr. Clark Kent. Peter was pretty excited to meet someone new, so he didn't mind the fussing from Dick too much. His mom was gone for the day, or days now. Some trip she went on that everyone kept from him. Or rather, his dad didn't talk much about in the first place, so without his mom to draw words out of him, he didn't see a reason to share with others. especially since Dick and Jason didn't really care, and Alfred already knows everything. So Peter had a second mom in Dick, who had dressed him in the ugliest sailor suit ever. He will burn Dick's phone when he's old enough to hack it. He's so cute! Dick pinched his cheeks while Peter kicked at him. I think he hates you now. Jason laughed from the doorway. Clark's here, by the way. Dick picked up Peter, ignoring Peter's frail hips. He'll meet someone new in a sailor suit. Oh, the shame. The three left Peter's nursery, heading for the front door where he could just make out conversation. Jason ran ahead after a minute while Dick kept fussing with his hair. Peter couldn't wait to talk. All of Dick's cursing will come back to bite him the moment he can talk. Clark, you've already met Dick and Jason. Bruce took Peter from Dick, eyeing the clothes. Yeah, I don't like it either. This is Peter. Peter stared at the new person, another black hair, blue-eyed guy. Peter was starting to wish for a blonde, redhead, anything. They all look sort of the same, though Clark has more muscles and somehow even taller than his dad. Hello, Peter. It's nice to finally meet you. Mr. Kent held out a hand, smiling at Peter. He could take the hand, but Peter was glad for someone new with manners, so Peter held both arms out, demanding in whatever babbles he managed to let out to be picked up. His dad laughed with Clark before he was transferred to the new guy. There was no scruff on his cheeks, but Peter could feel some hairs growing. They felt weird without the rest of the beard. He's friendly, Clark commented, tilting his head back as Peter's hands twitched his cheeks. Peter wondered if he'll learn to talk like his dad, because he needed more than just various hums to communicate. They eventually settled in the sitting room that Peter has dubbed the boring room. His rattle and a few other toys were missing from the floor. No doubt Alfred's doing. Peter sat on his dad's lap while the adults talked, Jason slipping away before he could be trapped in this conversation. Lucky. Peter tried to follow the conversation, but sitting was boring. He considered looking for his rattle. It had to be in the room somewhere. After managing to nearly fall off his dad's lap, Bruce put him on the ground more carefully than Peter would have landed himself. The adults and Dick continued their conversation. Something about Kansas. It was boring either way, so Peter crawled towards the wicker basket under the bookshelf. He knew he saw some color from there before his dad set him on the chair. When he finally reached it, though, came the next problem. The basket was as big as him. He couldn't reach inside from the floor. Can Peter stand? He could try it, since everyone else was busy. Peter half expected Alfred to pop up with his rattle, though, but after a quick glance around the room, turned up no magical Alfred. He figured he'd have to do it himself. Peter tried to grab the edge of the basket, but it was still too far out of reach. A little maneuvering got Peter sitting on the ground in front of it. Okay, now he just has to stand up. Peter pressed his hands to the carpet, pushing his legs under him awkwardly. Bending them still felt so unnatural, despite the movement being second nature to any other person. Peter managed to get his feet under him, so now he just has to stand. He'll have his rattle once he can stand. Pushing up, Peter tried using the little momentum to carry him up to his feet. Staggering back slightly, he grabbed the basket for stability. Standing felt hard, like gravity wanted him back on the ground. But his rattle was just inside. Peter peered over the edge, holding to the basket tightly to stay upright. He couldn't see it, but he knew it was somewhere inside it. Peter! Hands pulled him away from the box, lifting him into a warm and familiar chest. Did you just stand up? You were standing! Dick cheered, bouncing him lightly as he turned away from his rattle. His dad was there too, smiling down at him with Clark just behind him. Good job, chum. thank you. Now kindly get me my rattle. Dick stole me from my rattle, Dad. Peter tried twisting out of his brother's grip, but the guy refused to drop him. More words were going over his head while Peter tried fruitlessly to reach for the basket as it went further away. He soon found himself by the coffee table across the room from his rattle. He wished he had his web shooters. No one could take him away from his toys with his webs around. Dick was trying to coax him to stand with the table, but Peter had other plans. He started crawling towards the box as fast as he could before a hand caught his foot. "I'll pee on you." He could stand, but it wouldn't mean he could walk or run yet. He'd rather have a toy. Anything, as opposed to listening to them talk. Maybe this is why babies never remember anything after growing up. This is all so frustrating. "Come on, Pete, you can do it," Dick soothed, pulling him back to the coffee table. "Maybe he was looking for something," Clark offered, cementing himself as Peter's newest favorite. Peter tried again to crawl to the box. Thankfully, no one dragged him back this time. He finally made it, feeling a presence behind him. Dick crouched a little to his left, smiling down at Peter. "Can you stand again? Can you find my rattle?" Peter went through the same difficult task of getting his feet under him. Dick's hands hovered nearby in case he fell. It felt nicer having the safety net beside him this time. Once Peter stood, hands came to his side. They were light, barely there, but ready to grab him if he fell. He ignored the hands, choosing to peek into the box again. He spotted the blocks and the other toys he had inside, but he couldn't see his rattle. Peter tried pushing some of the toys away, but the rattle had to be further inside. He whined when he couldn't find it, stumbling back before the hands helped him sit down. "Let me look, Pete," Dick soothed, his hands petting Peter's hair before fishing around the box. Peter perked up when he heard the familiar sound of his rattle, patting his brother's foot to try and communicate his wish. It wasn't much longer before Dick held the rattle out, the black stick with the yellow bat symbol that had little beads inside. Peter reached for it excitedly, squealing as he finally had his toy. The adults and Dick tried coaxing him to stand again throughout Clark's visit, but he refused, shaking his rattle louder every time they brought it up. Peter did stand up again after Clark left. He had used his dad's pants to hold on as he stood up, reaching for the large hand holding his rattle prisoner. His dad gave the rattle back, smiling down at Peter as he shook his toy happily. "Peekaboo!" Peter's dad hid his face behind his hands before startling Peter with its return. His dad started this game in his room, or the few times Peter had managed to crawl away from his siblings to be found by his dad near the office. Peter thought he was smart enough and aware enough to not fall for the game, but it still surprised him, and he will never tell anyone that, because he was pretty sure his dad didn't tell anyone either. Peter squealed when his dad's face reappeared, reaching forward to pat his cheeks. His dad smiled at him, grinning happily back. He was in his dad's office now, sitting on the desk while his dad ignored work to play with him. Peter preferred this than playing with his toys. He preferred being with his parents. The fear of losing them forced him to look for either parent around the manor, or wherever he could reach. His mom had gone out today again. She always came back, but without her, Peter wanted to be with his dad. "Where's Daddy?" his dad asked, palms over his face. Peter knows. Peter knows he's behind his hands, but his brain struggled to compute it. Peter made a sound looking around even though he knew. "Peekaboo!" Squealing, Peter laughed when his dad plucked him from the desk. He wrapped his own arms around his dad, glad he was back, fully. The baby brain was embarrassing and annoying. Simple games he knew were somehow as magical and unexpected, as if he was really a baby. Peekaboo being one game. Still, he was glad when the game was over. He'll just take a nap here with his dad. He won't let them leave him again. They'll both live if he has any say about it. Peter has decided he doesn't like the front door. Everyone leaves from it and takes forever to come back, so he doesn't like it. Unfortunately, no one else agrees. "It's all right, kitten, he'll be back," his mom soothed, rubbing his back softly. "You still have me," Jason piped up, nudging Peter's foot. "I can't move out yet." First, his dad left for business. Hero business, not like anyone told him. Now Dick left, and Peter just didn't like it. He couldn't protect them if they weren't here. "Do you want your rattle?" Jason tried again, shaking the bat rattle. Peter ignored the sound, crying in his mom's hair instead. They didn't understand. He couldn't even explain it. They were in danger without him. He couldn't keep them safe if they kept leaving. How can he know they're okay if they didn't come home at all? Peter's finally learning to walk, and he cannot be happier. While his parents liked to terrify him with business trips and the like, he spent his time practicing. He can walk around an entire room, and he only needs furniture to hold onto on occasion. Running wasn't something he could do yet, but this is progress. Though, they've since put baby gates on both sides of the stairs everywhere. Peter eyed the plastic gate, locking him from the stairwell. His dad and Jason were upstairs already, and he had been left to nap in the boring room. Now, he had to find a way to get upstairs. "Bah," Peter huffed. He wasn't even a year old yet, and they left him? Tears welled up, and Peter didn't bother to stifle them. Maybe Alfred was around. Peter waddled towards the room, hoping to find the man there. Alfred usually popped up when needed, but sometimes you have to try and find him first. Peter has been trying to find an explanation for Alfred's all-knowingness, but nothing seemed concrete. Eventually, Peter made it to the kitchen. He only had to grab a chair twice before making it all the way here. Peeking inside, Peter spotted his target by the stove. The smell of food was so enticing. He hoped he'd have some of what is being made. Purees were good, but there were only so many broccoli ones he could handle. "Ba ba ba. I want to see Dad." "Master Peter, did he sleep well?" "Ba ba. Yeah, until everyone left me." "Very good, Master Peter." Alfred twisted the knobs before coming to him. Peter raised his hands immediately as the man brought him up. "Do you want to see Master Bruce, then?" "Baff. Yes." "As you wish." Alfred carried him towards the stairs, unlocking the baby gate easily before ascending them. Peter eyed the dumb baby gate. He'll get past them soon enough. They were just a little too tall for him right now. Alfred took Peter towards his dad's office. He couldn't hear anything inside, but he knew his dad was there. The last time he left, Peter had caused enough ruckus that his mom had to video call him so Peter could calm down. It helped, seeing his dad alive and talking, but it wasn't the same without him there. The same went for Dick. He was fine before, but his leaving started to worry him too. After Dick came back with a broken arm once, Peter just couldn't let his brother leave too. Dick still left, but he felt bad every time now. "Master Bruce?" Alfred knocked on the door. A replying grunt answered as Alfred opened the door. Peter peered in as it opened. "Master Peter's been looking for you." "Thank you, Alfred." His dad spoke, leaving his desk. Peter eagerly reached for him, clinging to his dad's suit when he was settled. "You weren't causing any trouble, were you, Peter?" Ba. Not yet." Peter was quickly settled on his dad's lap, his rattle in hand as his dad focused on the screen ahead. Peter tried to see what he was doing, but the words were a jumbled mess. Clearly, he wasn't old enough to read yet. Maybe soon. Jason has been reading him some story about a monkey lately, and the words looked familiar. The screen changed, colors reflecting off of it. Peter turned from the rattle at the sight. Green and red flooded the screen, a colorful pie chart filling the screen. Pie chart? This is a pie chart. It helps to represent data. It's an easier way to show what I want to see than just the lists. What's it showing now? It's showing the sales per region. See, the green is America, the red is Europe, blue is Asia, and yellow is Africa. What are you selling? America is where we live. Gotham is in North America, specifically New Jersey. His dad answered completely wrong. Peter lost interest quickly after accidentally shaking his toy. He almost forgot about it. His dad went back to looking at charts, so Peter just shook the rattle before dropping it. It started a pretty fun game of Peter throwing it and his dad going after it. Eventually, he was just left on the floor, so Peter went after the rattle himself. Every so often, he would turn to make sure his dad was there, but it seemed like he got sucked into work, like Mr. Stark did sometimes. Peter threw his rattle again, watching it bounce off a bookshelf. He crawled after it. Standing took too much work when he was already on the ground. The bookshelf looked different than the others. The bottom of it scuffed in a way only caused by consistent movement. Peter brushed his finger over the scuff mark. Alfred would never allow that. The bookshelf stayed in place, but was it a secret passage? Using the shelves for leverage, he pulled himself up. Maybe something here opened it. Peter doubted any trick book would be so low. Peter grabbed onto the higher shelf, pulling himself upwards. The books were all neatly pushed back, so there was plenty of space for him to push his feet onto. Peter managed a total of 2 shelves before he was caught, lifted into the arms of his dad while trying to reach for the shelves again. I was so close. That's not something you climb, Peter, his dad warned, carrying him back to his desk. You shouldn't climb anything without somewhere there to watch you. Understand? Sure. You were here, so I wasn't in trouble. He was left trapped for an hour on his dad's lap after that. Freed only after Peter fussed enough to be given floor privileges again. This time, Peter steered clear of the bookshelf. He'll figure it out later. Maybe Jason will help him. It's been nearly a full year now, and Peter feels that he's progressed pretty well. Peter can walk and climb things now. He's figured out how to mess with the baby gate locks in the kitchen, though he didn't like Alfred's disappointed face after that. The baby gate on the stairs was still a challenge, but Peter has plans for them. Clark and his wife came by more now, too. This wasn't bad, though. Mr. Kent always seemed to catch him before Peter could really break past the baby gate. The view from Mr. Kent's arms weren't bad either. Peter missed heights, so being held by the tall man was a nice break from the floor. Currently, Peter watched Jason work on homework. He hoped he could skip out on homework when he starts school. Learning the basics all over again would be a nightmare. He's doing enough trying to relearn basic motor skills. Leaving his toys behind, Peter decided he wanted Jason to read something. Jason always relaxed when he was reading, so Peter figured that was better than homework. Peter looked through the shelves filled with Peter's books, namely kids' books that are solely for him. Peter found one about an elephant that he took before making his way to Jason's side. He patted his brother's leg before raising the book upwards. Read it? Please? I have to finish this if I want to go on patrol, Pete. Boo, homework. I can't read yet. Please? No, Peter. Jason turned to his work for a total of 1 minute before sighing. Fine, but if B asks, you cried, so I had to. Hell yes! Jason walked to the couch, getting comfortable as Peter climbed on beside him. Once Peter was comfortably tucked into Jason's side, he opened the book. Jason started reading, making voices for each character, as Peter pointed out each character in the story. They spent the next half hour going through the children's books and a few others before they were called down for dinner. Peter tried to go down the stairs by himself. He was ready for it, except Jason caught him before he could slip past the gate. Next time. Peter wasn't sure when his birthday was, but he figured he was old enough for the stairs. So, after ensuring Alfred was cooking something complicated and long, and already knowing his traitor dad left for work, Peter stood at the bottom of the stairs. The baby gate had a simple enough lock for his parents to pass through easily. Regular babies wouldn't know where to start. Peter was an engineer in 2 separate fields by the time he was 18, so he could figure this out himself. Peter stood on his toes, his fingers running along the latch. Alfred only needed one hand to open them before. His dad and Dick just walked over it. Unfairly tall men. He'll be tall enough soon. His mom and Jason also only needed one hand when opening them. So, in other words, a simple mechanism to open and lock the door in place. Peter felt along the ridges before feeling the latch. Pushing on it, Peter pulled the gate outwards, as he'd seen it done before. The gate didn't budge, staying locked in place while the top shook a little from his movement. Okay, so another latch on the bottom. Peter sat down at the foot of the gate, eyeing the way it was placed. The gate touched the floor or the metal beam at the bottom. Would it open if he lifted it? With a new idea in mind, Peter pulled the latch again. His other hand tried to lift the gate upwards, managing to free the door as he stumbled back. Peter fell backwards. His eyes were on the gate that slowly swung open. He did it! Getting back up, Peter waddled towards the stairs. They looked a lot steeper than they did in his family's arms. Playing it safe, Peter pressed his palms on the steps before making his way upwards. Peter continued to carefully crawl up. He could only see the steps below his hand, since looking up would mess with his balance. He'll make it up, and the gate there opens the opposite way. Opening it won't knock him down the stairs at all. Perfect. Kitten? Uh-oh. Dang it! Hands carefully plucked him from behind, lifting him away from the steps. It gave him a better view of how close he was to the top, too. Kitten, you shouldn't be climbing the stairs by yourself. How did you get past the gate? His mom mused, ruffling his hair gently. Peter looked at the open baby gate below them as they approached it. He was so close. His mom stepped outside the gate, closing it before putting Peter down beside it. Can you open it again, Cat? Abba. Sure? Peter repeated the same actions as before, save for the fall. His mom caught him easily before he could stumble back as they watched the gate swing open slowly again. Aren't you a little genius, love? Peter squealed when her fingers tickled his sides. He felt soft lips press against his hair before he was lifted in her arms once again. Bruce will have to get a new gate now. Your mama will teach you how to break into places when you're older, so just be patient. Peter was pretty sure vigilantes used lockpicks sometimes. Spider-Man never really needed to, on account of his strength just crushing lock, or he would just climb through the windows. Criminals couldn't be bothered to reach for the lock. But since he doubted he'd find a radioactive spider anytime soon, he could use those lessons. Dad. Peter tugged on his dad's pant legs. His dad had been on the phone for hours, and everyone else was busy or asleep. It wasn't even that late, but his mom had gone out that night too, meaning she takes cat naps in the afternoon. Peter had been with her earlier, but he was bored of sleeping. Besides, he has 2 parents. While she sleeps, he can play with Peter. What? His dad startled from his phone, looking down at Peter with wide eyes. Peter stared back, a little confused himself. His dad showed emotions, sure, but not this obvious. Most times he smiled around Peter when he's talking to others. He hardly does, even through the phone. I'll call you back, Lucius. His dad crouched now, taking Peter's face in his hands. Can you say that again, chum? Dada. Peter took his dad's face in hand too, squishing his cheeks. Peter wasn't sure why his dad's eyes watered, but he patted his cheek anyway. Dada. Peter squealed when he was airborne, quickly being enveloped in his father's arms. Dada, you're so smart, chum. He was held in the hug for a long enough time for Peter to start wiggling. He loved hugs, but he sort of wanted to play. At this point, Peter has fully embraced being a kid again. He has a second chance, and he'll protect his family better than before. His mind was easily lost to the simplicity of his biological age, making his days yards easier than before. This also meant that he was a little more selfish than he'd usually be. His dad shifted in his grasp before leaving the room. Peter peeked over his shoulder to see where they were going. They went down the hall towards his parents' bedroom, where Peter had just escaped from. Selena. His dad entered the room easily. Peter spotted his mom still curled up on the bed. There was an empty space where Peter had slept 10 minutes ago, and had left for a very good reason. That reason being playtime, so Peter sorta wanted to go play now. His mom stirred at the second call to her name, his dad dropping to sit on the bed beside her. "What is it, Pat?" Peter said his first word. That caught his mom's attention as she sat up now, her vibrant green eyes darting between them. Peter managed to break from his dad's grasp, pulling at his hand instead to play with his fingers. He'll find a toy to play with later then. What was it? Peter felt fingers through his hair, drawing his attention from his dad's calloused hands. "Kitten, can you say mama?" "Dada." "Oh, Kit, but mama is a better word than dada." Peter was scooped up in another hug, warm and comforting. Peter wrapped his arms around her too, accepting the hug easily. Alright guys, and that is the end of Chapter 4 of Spider-Man Reborn by Reborn. Bit of a long chapter, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.